Her small hands were shaking as she held the gun, eyes wide with fear and hurt. The bikers froze, rough men with loud hearts suddenly silent before a child. The wind carried her trembling voice. "Which one of you is my father?" No one moved. No one spoke. A minute ago they were laughing. Now the world seemed to stop for her pain. But in the next few moments, everything they thought they knew about guilt, shame, and love would be turned upside down. Have you ever seen a child's question change a grown man's heart? Tell us in the comments. Before we begin, hit subscribe. It's appreciated. It was a quiet morning in a small, dusty town on the edge of nowhere. The sun was just starting to rise, painting the cracked road and old gas station in soft gold. A little girl named Lila walked down that road alone, her shoes torn, her face smudged. But her eyes, those eyes, held something far older than her years. She couldn't have been more than 8, yet the world had already shown her too much. Lila lived with her grandmother in a small trailer by the train tracks. Her mother had passed when she was just a baby, and all she knew about her father were whispers, angry ones, half-truths spoken by grown-ups who thought she wasn't listening. They said he was a biker, part of a rough gang that came through town years ago. No one ever told her his name. No one ever told her why he left. Every day she watched groups of bikers ride past the old diner at the edge of town. Loud engines, leather jackets, laughter that echoed through the hills. And every time her heart ached a little more. Was he one of them? Did he even know she existed? Her grandmother always said, "Let the past stay where it is." But the past didn't want to stay. It followed Lila in every look, every whisper, every question she couldn't ask. She dreamed of one day standing in front of those bikers, of finding her father's eyes among theirs. She just wanted to know why he left, and why she wasn't enough to stay for. That morning, something inside her finally broke the silence. She picked up the small pistol her grandmother kept in a drawer, wrapped it in her tiny hand, and walked out before dawn. Her heart wasn't filled with anger, just confusion, longing, and a child's desperate hope for answers. If you were in her place, what would you have done? Tell us in the comments. The morning air was cold, the kind that bites your skin but keeps you awake. Lila's feet kicked up dust as she walked toward the diner at the end of the road. The sound of engines grew louder in the distance, deep growling sounds that made the ground hum beneath her shoes. She stopped at the edge of the lot and waited. Soon they came. A line of bikers rolled in, laughing, teasing, their heavy boots hitting the ground as they parked. The smell of oil and smoke mixed with the smell of coffee coming from inside the diner. Lila stood there, clutching the pistol in her pocket, her small heart pounding so hard she thought they could hear it. She didn't see monsters. She saw men, tired, dirty, loud, but men who could have been fathers. Her eyes scanned their faces one by one, a tall man with gray hair and a scar across his cheek, another with a gentle smile hidden behind a beard. None of them looked back at her. None noticed the little girl standing just a few feet away, carrying a question heavy enough to break her heart. She took a step forward. Then another. The sound of her shoes on the pavement made one of the bikers turn. He squinted, frowning a little, and nudged the man beside him. The laughter died down. They stared as the girl reached into her coat and pulled out the gun. For a second, no one breathed. The gray-haired man whispered something under his breath. The world felt like it had stopped moving. Lila's voice trembled as she spoke. "Who is my father?" No one answered. Some looked away. Some froze in guilt, though none knew why. The oldest man, the one with the scar, took a small step forward, not out of courage, but something softer. He saw her eyes, the same shade as someone he used to love long ago. The gun shook in her hand. She didn't want to hurt anyone. She just wanted someone to see her, to say her name with kindness, to tell her she belonged to someone. The men saw her fear, her small shoulders trembling under the weight of a truth she shouldn't have had to carry alone. The tall man spoke softly, his voice rough like gravel. "Put it down." "Sweetheart," Lila blinked. The tears she had held back all morning began to fall. Her arms trembled, the gun lowering slightly. Around her the silence stretched, the kind that makes even grown men face their own ghosts. One of the younger bikers looked away, wiping his eyes. Another muttered something about Danny's kid, as if a memory was returning too late. They all began to realize that this child was not just a stranger. She was someone's story that never got finished, and in that moment, it wasn't the gun that scared them. It was the truth. The truth that someone among them had left a little girl to search for love with a weapon instead of a hug. Have you ever carried pain in silence, hoping one day someone would truly see you? Tell us in the comments. The world seemed to fade into silence. The hum of engines, the rustle of wind, everything disappeared. It was just Lila and a circle of men who didn't know how to face her eyes. The man with the scar stepped closer. His boots scraped against the pavement. He looked down at her, and for the first time in years, he saw her mother's face. The same small nose, the same tear on her left cheek. His throat tightened, and his chest ached like something sharp was pressing inside. He whispered almost to himself, "Maggie's girl." Lila blinked up at him, her voice barely a breath. "You knew my mom?" He nodded slowly. The others shifted uncomfortably, not daring to move. The gun slipped from Lila's small hands and hit the ground with a dull thud. She didn't even look at it. Her eyes stayed on his. For a long, painful moment, he couldn't speak. His hands trembled as he reached into his jacket and pulled out a worn photo. A woman holding a baby wrapped in a pink blanket. His voice broke. "That was the last day I saw her. I didn't know. She was gone." Lila's lip quivered. The tears she had been holding back finally fell. "Then why didn't you come for me?" His eyes filled with tears too. The kind a man hides for years until they burn their way out. "I thought she left because she didn't want me near you. I thought I'd only make your life harder." He fell to his knees in front of her. The rough man who once rode through towns without fear, now trembling before a child. No one said a word. The other bikers looked away, some swallowing back their own guilt, each one thinking of someone they had left behind. Lila took a small step forward and placed her tiny hand on his shoulder. "I just wanted to know you were real." He nodded, tears running down his weathered face. In that second, something broke, not in pain, but in release. Years of silence, shame, and regret melted into the dirt beneath them. The gun lay forgotten, but the truth stood between them, raw, heavy, and finally seen. What would you have done if this truth was suddenly staring back at you? Tell us in the comments. The morning sun was higher now, soft light spilling across the cracked road where they stood. The man, her father, held Lila close, his rough hands shaking as if afraid she would disappear if he let go. The bikers stood around them quietly, heads lowered. No one laughed anymore. No one moved to leave. After a long silence, he whispered, "I can't change the years I missed, but I can be here now." Lila didn't say anything. She just nodded against his chest, feeling the steady beat of a heart she had once dreamed about. The men looked at each other, ashamed yet changed. They saw in that child's small body the weight of choices made long ago, the way one man's silence can echo through a lifetime. They didn't see a gang anymore. They saw fathers, sons, brothers, people who had all lost pieces of themselves to pride and pain. When they finally left the diner, they didn't roar away like before. Their engines started softly, the sound now gentle instead of wild. One by one, they gave a small nod to Lila, as if promising something wordless, to remember her, to do better, to look at the faces of the people they loved and not turn away again. Lila and her father walked toward the horizon together. She didn't know what tomorrow would bring, but she knew she wasn't alone anymore. The past hadn't vanished. It still hurt, but it no longer owned her. Sometimes healing doesn't come through big words or perfect endings. Sometimes it begins with one trembling question, and the courage to ask it, because in a world full of noise, maybe what we all need most is to be seen, to be claimed, to be loved, even if it takes a lifetime to find it. What part of this story stayed with you the most? Tell us in the comments. Show some love with a like and subscribe to stay inspired.